Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about the books that I cannot wait to read this fall season. Now, I had already filmed this video and posted it, but I am such a perfectionist and overthinker. I'm only a human. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized I didn't really love the video. So I thought, you know what, let me refilm it. And so that's what we're doing today. I'm really excited to talk about these books. And I will be adding a few books that I did forget though, so there's that. So the first book that I have is right here. Vicious by V.E. Schwab. I cannot tell you how excited I am to finally be reading Vicious. I've been wanting to read this ever since it came out back in OG booktube times when it had a different cover, and some of my favorite booktubers loved this book and raved about it. And at that time, I don't think I was particularly drawn to it, especially because I knew that it was more of an adult book and I wasn't really reading adult books. I was mainly reading young adult. But now I've been diving more into the dark academia genre and definitely looking forward to reading this. So I think for all of these books, it's going to be a little bit hard for me to give you like a premise or description about them because I haven't really read them yet. But what I can tell you that I know about this book is that we're following two timelines. One is in the present and one is 10 years ago when these two characters were college roommates at the University of Lockland, or Lockland University. And when they're in college, they're assigned to do this project, and our main character, Victor, he wants to do this project about near-death experiences and how that can lead to having like supernatural abilities. And honestly, that sounds like one of the most intriguing and coolest premises ever, so I am excited about this. V.E. Schwab's writing is stunning. I cannot wait to dive into Vicious finally. And also, if you were wondering, this is the UK edition. Absolutely adore it with my entire heart, and I honestly just love how UK editions feel in general. So next up, I have, these are all books on like my physical TBR, but I do have a couple that I'm gonna get through Libby, through the library, or I think there's one on Kindle Unlimited. But anyway, the next one that I have is obviously another dark academia, and that is Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. So I have already read this book. You can see from my annotations, and I read this like probably like 4 years ago, and I don't really remember. I remember how dark it was. I remember that our main character could see ghosts and really liking that aspect of the story, but I would recommend looking at content warnings for this. But obviously it's been a while since I read it, so I need to reread it because my voice. I have here, which I forgot to take out, I have here Hellbent by Leigh Bardugo, and it is the Barnes & Noble exclusive edition, which has like sprayed edges. I've never had a Barnes & Noble exclusive edition, so thank you to my lovely boyfriend for gifting me this. It's one of the best gifts ever, and so obviously I need to reread the first book to get to the second book, and I've heard amazing things, so excited about it. Always excited to read a dark academia book. So next up we have a little cozy fantasy, and I've never really read a cozy fantasy before, but this one my boyfriend also got for me, and it was when it first came out and I hadn't heard anything about it. That's why it's like the hardback edition, which is so pretty. And now I hear about this book everywhere and I never got to read it, and I've had it on my shelves for so long, so I need to pick it up. And mainly because honestly I feel like I'm finally in the mood to read a book like this. We're following Emily Wilde, and she is a researcher who is going to go on a journey to explore fairy folklore and history and write the first ever encyclopedia of fairies. And she seems to be a more introverted character who likes to spend her time alone with her books and her dog, and honestly that's very relatable. But in this journey she's going to find friendship, and I honestly think romance as well, and I think it's like her academic rival. So I'm excited because this year I read A Study in Drowning, and in that book we follow a romance with two academic rivals as well. So I cannot wait to dive into this one. Guys, I'm so excited about this one because it's a classic that I've been meaning to read for so long, and it is a gothic novel, very well loved, and that is Jane Eyre by Charlote Brontë. Look at this edition, it's so beautiful. I honestly want to start collecting this Penguin Classic editions, and this is my first one. I've been meaning to read this book ever since I was in high school. I never got to read it for my own English class, so I cannot wait. Like, look at this description. A novel of intense emotional power, heightened atmosphere, and fierce intelligence, Jane Eyre dazzled and shocked readers with its passionate depiction of a woman's search for equality and freedom on her own terms. This is said to be one of my all-time favorite books. That's all I can say. The next book I have is another dark academia, but also fantasy, urban fantasy book. Also Vicious was also fantasy sci-fi, but this one is Legendborn by Tracy Deonn, and I am so excited to dive into this series. I've heard amazing things. This book sounds like something I'm really going to enjoy. This book is said to be inspired by the story of King Arthur, and we're following our main character Bree, who recently lost her mother, but she's going to attend this school called UNC Chapel Hill, and there she's going to discover secret societies, and a secret society called Legendborn, and apparently the secret society she discovers might be connected to what happened to her mother. So it sounds like a very powerful story that I cannot wait to read. Next up we have a book that I got from the library, and I think I'm actually going to be reading this next, and that is The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires by Grady Hendrix. And I'm looking to get into Grady Hendrix. He has like 2 other books that I want to read, and then one coming out next year. That sounds so interesting because it's following witches, but in this one obviously we have vampires, main reason why I got it. Also the cover giving fall vibes, and I have no idea what this book's about, if I'm honest with you. Obviously I think it's about a book club. That's all I could tell you, but there is a blurb in the back that caught my attention when I was browsing through the library, and the reason why I got it. It says ample thrills, chills, and relevant examples of socio-political injustices to satisfy any literary appetite. It also says page turning, sequences of excitement and anxiety, a cheeky spot-on pick for book clubs. Oh, I don't have a book club, but you know, we can read it together. A charming testament to friendships and life's imperfections with dashes of rot and savagery. I'm just reading all of the blurbs at this point, but it doesn't have a description on it, so that's why I can't really tell you what it is about myself, but I'm intrigued and really looking forward to it. The next book that I have is actually going to be a reread, and I don't know why, but okay, listen. This is The Cruel Prince by Holly Black, and when I first read this book, I thought it was okay. There were some unexpected twists and a lot more darkness to it that I did not expect. I mean, it's called The Cruel Prince, but it's a young adult book, so I didn't expect for it to be as cruel as it actually was. I was actually very surprised. And then I read the second book, don't remember too much about it, and I think it's because at that time I wasn't really in the mood and I read it on my Kindle and then forgot about it. And the third book I also didn't really like as much, but for some reason I always think about this first book, and I remember rating it 3 out of 5 stars. But I think about it so much that I'm like, did I actually like it more than I thought? I don't know, and I really want to reread it. I remember a long time ago when I was having like some difficulty sleeping, I picked it up. Never really done that with a book before, and I don't know why. I don't know why I never reread books. I should do that more often. And I started rereading it, and something about the writing or the world that this book is set in gave me lots of comfort, and for some reason I now want to reread the entire trilogy to see if I actually didn't like it, or if it was maybe the time when I picked it up. I'm not really sure, but I'm willing to give this book a second chance if I really can't stop thinking about this first book and want to go back to it. So The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. I do have a couple of other books on my shelves that I could consider like full TBR, like continuations to series, or like a new fantasy series that I have that I also got recently. But I think I'm gonna leave those for like another video that I want to do with like series I'm currently reading or want to start. So we're gonna leave those for later. I guess now we can get into the books that I'm gonna read through the library on Livy or Kindle Unlimited, depending on what's available. I cannot believe that this whole part of the video is literally muted, so I gotta refilm it, but that's okay. One of my neighbors, I think, is watching Lilo and Stitch, which I love that for them. I'm sorry if you can hear it. Anyway, let's dive into the books. So for the first 2, I read, like I mentioned earlier, A Study in Drowning by Ava Reid. Absolutely love this book, so I want to read more from Ava Reid, and 2 of her other books that I want to read are Juniper and Thorn and The Wolf and the Woodsman. Juniper and Thorn was a recommendation from one of my favorite booktubers, who is Hannah from A Clover Reader. Absolutely love her and trust her taste. And then The Wolf and the Woodsman, actually my friend recommended this book to me, the Lilo and Stitch song. My friend recommended this book to me when we were talking about books and said she really enjoyed it. And honestly, the premise sounds really interesting because in this book, it seems like every couple of years, the king chooses a girl for a sacrifice, and this time it is the main character. But when they're on their way to what I'm guessing is the kingdom, they get intercepted. And the woodsmen, who are the soldiers capturing her, get killed. And the only 2 people left are the main character and the prince. And I think they're gonna team up against something, not sure. So I'm excited to read both of them. Then we have my first ever Agatha Christie book, and that is And Then There Were None. I am so excited to finally read an Agatha Christie book, and also finally read a murder mystery book, because I haven't really, to be honest, read many mystery books. Like, the only one I've read is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, and that's it. Like, it's not a genre that I typically read. I mainly love watching like mystery thriller books, so if you have any recommendations to start with this genre, like, please let me know. But I do want to read this book. A lot of movies have been based off of this book, so it's just a classic, an author that I need to read at some point in my life. A Certain Dark Things by Silvia Moreno Garcia, and this one is a book about vampires set in Mexico City, so just that is enough to convince me to read it. One for My Enemy, which similarly to the previous book, this one is about two rival witch families, but it is set in New York City. So again, really cool, really interesting. Then we have A Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches by Sangu Mandana. And this is another recommendation from Hannah from A Clock Reader, and also a book that I've heard a lot of things about. And I especially want to read it because I want to read books about witches and vampires this fall, okay? And this is one of the top ones that I want to read about witches, just because it also is supposed to be very cozy, very heartwarming, and lighthearted. And I feel like that's something that I need. I don't know why. One of my favorite movies when I was younger, and I made this reference when I first filmed this video too, is Casper and Wendy with Hilary Duff. Absolutely love that movie. And if this book can give me like similar cozy vibes to the ones that I got when I watched that book when I was younger, that's all I'm asking for. Like, please. Good Girl, Bad Blood by Holly Jackson. And obviously I want to continue on with the A Good Girl's Guide to Murder trilogy, so hopefully I can read this one and the next one, especially because in my first vlog on my channel I watched a show for A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, and now it has an even more special place in my heart, so I cannot wait to continue on with the series. I have now also rewatched the show with my boyfriend. He's also invested, so I'm just excited. Next we have Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. Listen, this is a classic. I need to read this book at least once in my lifetime. This is a book that I just can't believe I haven't read. I know like the gist of the Frankenstein story, but honestly not very much, so I need to read the book. Finally, the book that I want to read is Coraline by Neil Gaiman, and I am so excited about this one because obviously Coraline the movie is such a classic for fall season, but also the book. I read this when I was younger and I don't remember too much about the book, like the difference between the book and the movie. I did get this book from the library like a few months ago and try to read it, and two things happened. I got a little bit spooked out because Coraline is creepy, okay? And then the second one was just that I knew that this book was going to be perfect for fall, so I did not finish reading it. So now it is perfect timing to actually finish. So there you go. Those are all the books that I'm looking to read this fall. I am so excited. Literally cannot wait till I can rewatch Hocus Pocus, The Haunted Mansion, Halloween Town. Those are like 3 of the movies that I rewatch all the time in the fall. Thank you so much for watching. I am so grateful if you made it all the way to this point in the video, and I will see you again in the next one. Bye!